bending the frames of some classic names. This is your spooky look at the brand new Noble Toys Universal Monsters Bendy Figs. These authentic, intricate figures from your favorite brands come in a unique and flexible form factor. Proudly display each character with the included stand. Bendy Figs are fun for kids and a detailed collectible for fans of all ages. They're toy-lectable. Before we get a spookier look at the brand new Bendy Figs from Noble Toys, the first thing we're going to do is figure out how tall these stand. I'm not going to do a measurement for every single one of these. I'll kind of give you a ballpark idea. Bride of Frankenstein, because of her hair, of course, is going to be notably taller than all the others. And while I'm going ahead and getting those calculations in order, I'd like to send out a big thank you to Noble Toys, who provided this sample, this entire first wave of the Bendy Figs Universal Monsters. Bendy Figs are actually going to be coming out with a whole ton of different lines from different categories, ranging from Harry Potter to Star Trek to DC figures, all with the Bendy style. Very, very excited. As for the Bendy Figs themselves, Dracula, and pretty much about the same height for all of these, are on average about 8 inches in height, 7.8 to be exact. Switching that to centimeters, then you're looking at the Bendy Figs being about 20 centimeters, 19.9 to be exact. Yes, Noble Toys was nice enough to send the entire first series of their brand new Universal Monsters Bendy Figs. If you guys would like to check out more from Bendy Figs, head on over to their website at www.bendyfigs.com. Don't worry, I'll provide the details in the video description. Now, the interesting thing about these, and this is one thing that's going to be constant across the board, it seems, with all the Bendy Figs, is that they're going to come with their own unique display stands. And while I do really like the designs and the way that these are bendable, I think one of the things that I really like about this lineup as well is the fact that they do come with unique display stands. Let's have a look at those right now. Now, I've got basically all of them attached to the base. I'm going to take Dracula off, for example. He's got large enough feet. He's not going to be going anywhere. I just want to show you what the stands look like. You basically got like an old film reel style. Notable 2 pegs in the center that's going to hold and keep Dracula from flying away on us. At the top, you've got Universal Monsters, and then down below, you've got the character that the figure is based from. And that will change depending on which character that you're looking at, but just want to show you. I mean, these are really good-looking bases. Bendy Figs on the back, all done in sort of an etched into the plastic. Then down below that, you've got Noble Toys, the Noble Collection, and Universal City Studios right there. I really do like the display stands. That's one of my favorite things about this. But, I mean, obviously we're not going to be looking at the display stands the entire course of this video. You guys are going to want to be seeing the actual figures themselves. This is all of Series 1. Series 1 consists of Dracula, Frankenstein. You'll note that they did put Frankenstein and not Frankenstein's monster. I'm all for just calling the monster Frankenstein and settling the argument right there. We got Bride of Frankenstein and the creature from the Black Lagoon. Looking first at Dracula, you can see that as they've done for a sculpting on Dracula, they've opted to give him an open mouth. Strange, however, though, they haven't given him any fangs. Or maybe the fangs are there, and unfortunately they just never painted them, because it does seem like the fangs stick further down. Maybe like the plastic, the coloring that they used was swapped around, so maybe like the bottom area here, I mean, it does look like it's sculpted like teeth. Maybe that was supposed to be painted in white. Despite that, though, I really do like the design of this one quite a bit. I feel like I'm sort of feeling nostalgic when I'm looking at these figures. Back when I was a kid, we used to go to Niagara Falls a lot here in Canada, and there was always those spooky haunted castles that you could go into. And I always seem to remember that they had like a gift shop that was right next door to it, and they sold similar style of Universal Monsters. I can't tell you whether I remember them being bendable, like these ones do have wire frames put inside of them. We'll talk about that in a second. But very much these remind me of old vintage figures. And I do really mean that in the sincerest most positive way. I really like the design of these ones. Now, they're all made of rubber, but you can see on the back of Dracula's jacket, for example, there's all the air holes. So that would be the indicator that they have put a wire frame into the body itself, encased inside this rubber prison. But I do like the head sculpt on Dracula. One thing you probably also noticed by the fact that I moved the cape out of the way is the cape itself is even on its own wire frame. So you can actually bend and manipulate that if you want to. You can kind of have it like the wind is blowing back Dracula's cape. And I really think that's clever, the fact that they did that. He is obviously the only of the Bendy figs that does have a wire frame, or does have a cape. All the other ones don't have capes. But I do really like the design of that, and especially the fact that they did put a nice bright red material on the inside. But as it goes for Dracula's face, a really nice looking face on Dracula. Nice big red eyes peering right back at you. Of course, he does have his necklace as well as his long-tailed jacket, a vest, and very long-looking vampire hands that can come out and grab you. These are definitely fun, and I feel they could probably do this down the road, re-release these in black and white. I always seem to say that when it comes to Universal Monsters. Yes, you can get colorized versions of these characters, but the idea of going back and giving us black and white treatments of these, I think would also be really fun as well. But again, nice, decent-looking head sculpt on him. He's got the nice pointed ears sticking up the sides, very slicked black hair, as you can see, and very, very long nails. I do like the hands that they've sculpted on him. And like I said, that these are wire frames, so you can move the arms out. It doesn't give you a full range of motion, mind you, not like you would get with an articulated figure, mind you, but at least you can still bend the arms to some marginal range. Like you can bring the arms up, for example, kind of have Dracula creeping and stalking behind you. The same thing can be said for the legs as well. The legs you can bring forward and back. You can even bend the knees on them. They don't always hold the bend. As again, like the wire frame does go to the bottom of the leg, but there's a lot of thick rubber in the way of it. I mean, even if I don't get a full range of motion, it's not like I'm going to be having him in leaping poses. I just think it's a fun-looking Dracula, especially the fact that they include a display stand that I can attach the figure to. And if it means I'm only really going to be displaying their hands, which is sort of what I started at the beginning of this review, I'm fine by that as well. I'm just probably going to be posing the arms up, having them on their display stands. And I think Dracula looks overall pretty cool. Then we can move on over to Frankenstein. Again, not Frankenstein's monster, just regular Frankenstein. And like Dracula, he does come with the display stand. So we'll go ahead and pop that off. That's what the stand looks like. It kind of reminds me of like an old hard disk. If anybody grew up with the old PCs, you'd have a floppy disk and you had a hard disk. Kind of reminds me of that. Anyways, we'll put that to the side. Frankenstein is an interesting looking fellow. I get very much the read of Frankenstein, but they have done some changes to his head sculpt. They've got some nice scarring on the side of his face, much like Dracula. He's got these red piercing eyes. Kind of looks like little tiny jack-o'-lanterns. He's got the little nubs, the little bolts located on the side of his neck. Again, everything on this guy is rubber. And they also have the little stitched stapling on the top of his head as well. He gets very much the look of Frankenstein. He doesn't, of course, none of these really are supposed to be capturing the likeness of the actors that played them. So you're not really going to be getting a Boris Karloff look for Frankenstein here. But I still think it's a decent looking, sort of an animated treatment and an animated style for these Universal monsters. Again, you've got the broad shoulders on Frankenstein, really tattered looking jacket, very large hands. In fact, actually, one of the things that's common with all of these is that they have really large arms and large hands equally. I thought actually for a second, and I had to look at it double time, I thought that Frankenstein had 5 fingers. Well, yeah, as a thumb counts as one, but I thought he actually had 5 fingers. I had to look at that again and realize it was only 4 fingers I was looking at. I do like the discoloration that they did put to the fingers, kind of making them look really dirty looking hands. Like with Dracula, you can bring the arms up and you can see like there's the little air holes in there, and the frame of wire is fed through those limbs. The torso doesn't really have much in the way of posability. I mean, even though, yes, technically, I guess maybe the wire starts here and works down only in the legs, and the same thing could be said for the arms. He does have it also in his head, which made me think for a second that I could actually bring the head down. You can a little bit, but not by much though. And even if I move it to the side, it only seems to hold just a little bit of that bend and not much of anything else. But overall, a fun-looking figure. I mean, he's got the very large stilted shoes, classic for Frankenstein. He's got the stitching in the leg. That's a nice touch. And he's got a little opening there in his knee. I think the camera wants to focus in on Dracula. I should do a best to move these figures over because I just don't want the camera to focus on all the other ones just yet. Spend some time, much needed time, just to talking about Frankenstein. I do, again, like the design of this one quite a bit. Even though, again, I don't think it looks accurate to Boris Karloff, but I don't think that's really the point of these figures anyways. It's the fact that they're supposed to just capture what these characters would look like, sort of the bare basics. And because Frankenstein has the bolts, the larger head, the wider shoulders, and the stilted boots, I think they're generally quite successful with this release as a Bendy fig. Next, let's have a look at the Bride. The Bride of Frankenstein. And again, I've just decided to keep the figures off the view in the background for the time being, just because for some reason the camera wanted to focus in on that only. You can see there is her mouth. I feel like maybe they missed a little bit on the lips. I feel like they probably doesn't need to have that much lipstick around the lip area. I do like the expression that they gave her, though. That big shocked look that she has when she sees Frankenstein neighboring by. I do like also like the hair that they've given her as well. Again, these scream to me, no pun intended, like figures that could get re-released as black and whites. Because I think the molds work well and could lend themselves well to being done all in a black and white. Although, really, there's a lot of black and white already on the Bride, specifically more so in their head. She does have the wrappings done on her sleeves. Again, you've got the fingers more elongated on the Bride. And like sort of Dracula, she does also get afforded this skirting, the long dress that she has in the movie. Unlike Dracula, however, though, this is just material. It doesn't have a wire frame. You can't bend and move the bottom of it. It's just straight out fabric. She does have the, of course, peg holes on the undersides of her feet. Her wire framing is basically the same, although because she does have a thinner frame than some of the others, it seems like I can actually do a lot more with her, to the point where actually I can even bring the arm up, like she's shrieking and moving herself away from Frankenstein. She does also have the air holes on the back of her neck as well. Again, you can kind of move the head back and forth a little bit. Generally, these wire-framed figures, these bendy figures, don't give you the full range of motion, but just enough that, again, you can kind of move those hands. We move the dress just out of the way for the time being. I'm so sorry, Bride. You can move the legs forward and back. You can kind of bend the knees as well, and it holds just a little bit of that bend. And then we'll lastly put her on her display stand, and we'll put her with the others, just like so. Move her over to the side, and then last and certainly not least, he was hiding off to the camera there. We've got the Creature from the Black Lagoon. Now he again comes with a Creature from the Black Lagoon display stand with the Universal monsters along the top and 2 pegs right there for his feet, and there's the peg holes on the undersides of his feet that can attach to the stand. One of my personal favorites actually from this release. I like the Dracula, but I think one of my favorites might be the Creature from the Black Lagoon. When I look at this one, it reminds me very much like the creature that was in Monster Squad, the way that they've designed their Creature from the Black Lagoon. I get very much those same similar vibes. Again, it still has those holes located on the back, which will allow the figure to be bent. And because, again, this one is using a slightly more thicker rubber for its mold, it means that you're not going to be able to move as much to it. You can still move the arms, you can still move the forearms up. But again, you're only really going to be able to get mostly an arm bend. A little bit in the legs. You can still somewhat move the legs out, and you can also bend the knees like that. That's about as much of a bend as you're going to be getting from it. But the benefit of this particular one, the thing that I really like the most, is it's got a lot of cool details to it. The gills on the side, of course the scales on its body, all done in a dark green rubber, it seems, and they probably have just painted the surface of it, giving it this slimy, mucky yellow. I really do like the way that this one turned out. The thing I also really like about these figures is they're a decent size, too. They're not small at all. I mean, especially when you put them on display stands, like the ones that come included with these figures, it sort of then elevates them to feel more like collectibles. And again, we'll just plug this one onto his display stand, get him nice large pegs, which I also like as well. Just slide him down and bring in all the others that we had a look at. This is Series 1 of the Universal Monster Bendy figs, and I actually really like these. They don't have as much bending capabilities as, when it comes to usually bendable figures, you're not really going to be getting a lot of range that you can get in the arms, the legs. Because they're always encased in rubber, it means they're a little more limited. You can still bend the arms, granted, yes. So if you want to get Dracula with his claws up, if you want to have Bride of Frankenstein shrieking in disgust, you can still pull that off with the frames at least that are in their arms. My personal favorite of the four, I think, is the creature from the Black Lagoon, but they're all really fun figures, sort of, again, getting that sort of retro vibe that I'm really getting from this particular line. And probably one of the reasonings why I'm liking this line so much. I really feel like nostalgia can play a big role in the things that we have in our collections. Yes, we're always going to be sourcing out the newer things, the things that have super articulation, a fantastic sculpt and likeness to the character that they're based from. But every once in a while, you'll still be picking up something that maybe is firmly rooted in your childhood, things that you remember as a kid. You either wanted to have as a kid, you either had as a kid and got rid of, or you just remember seeing as a kid. And maybe that's one of the things I like about the Bendy Figs Universal Monsters specifically. Noble Toys is producing a wide range of Bendy Figs, ranging from Lord of the Rings, DC, Harry Potter, and even Star Trek. But when I'm looking at the Universal Monsters, it throws me back to a time of going to Niagara Falls with my family. Going and checking out, or not even so much checking out, but sort of cautiously walking around the haunted tours and going into the gift shops next door where I would find memorabilia based on the Universal Monsters. And even though these aren't dead-on copies, I do remember having, or at least seeing, bendable figures like this in some of those gift shops. I even feel like I may have had a bendable Dracula back in the day. So again, that's one of the things I really like about this line. They're not superposable, and because, again, they have a wire frame all in their limbs, means there is going to be some limitation with what you can actually do with them. I think the real stars of these figures is the fact that they also come with display stands, which, again, really ups up their display look, because, again, you can have them with each one of their own unique stands. A really nice job on Noble Toys' part. Again, inadvertently, indirectly, sort of channeling into my childhood, and me remembering seeing stuff like this when I was growing up really has now just rekindled that when I saw these figures in my hands and being able to review them for you guys. A big thank you again to Noble Toys for providing the samples here of the first wave of Universal Monsters Bendy Figs. Let me know down below in the comment section what you guys think of this line, and if you really remember like those lines that you had or saw as a kid, and maybe then pick up figures nowadays because it reminds you of those lines. Let me know down below in the comments section if you've ever had experiences with that, or even if you remember bendable Universal Monsters. If you guys are also new to the channel and liking the content you're seeing, consider the idea, of course, of hitting that subscribe button down below and turning that bell notification on as that friendly reminder that when new videos are coming onto this channel, you won't be the person that's going to be missing out. And definitely a lot of more spooky related videos coming your way, so as always, keep your ghoulish peepers peeled to this channel, because like I said, there's going to be a lot of content coming your way. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.